The rain hammered against the windows of the Hartford mansion like accusations demanding to be heard. Inside the grand study, 23-year-old Maya Hartford stood before her father's mahogany desk, her hands trembling as she clutched a crumpled ultrasound photo against her chest. The black and white image showed a tiny bean-shaped figure. 12 weeks along, the doctor had said. 12 weeks of secret morning sickness. 12 weeks of hiding her growing terror. And now, the moment of truth she'd been dreading had finally arrived. Richard Hartford didn't look up from the contract he was reviewing. His silver reading glasses perched on his aristocratic nose, his jaw set in that familiar expression of cold dismissal that Maya had known all her life. At 62, he was still an imposing figure. Tall, broad-shouldered, with steel-gray hair that spoke of power and authority. The Hartford name meant something in Boston. It meant old money, influence, and a legacy that stretched back 4 generations. "Father," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm outside. "I need to talk to you about something important." Richard's pen continued moving across the document. "If it's about that charity function your mother wants me to attend, tell her I'm busy. The merger with Blackstone Industries requires my full attention." "It's not about mother." Maya took a step closer to the desk, her heart pounding so hard she was certain he could hear it. "Father, please. Just look at me." Something in her tone must have penetrated his wall of indifference. Richard set down his pen with deliberate slowness and removed his glasses, fixing her with the cold blue eyes that had intimidated countless business rivals into submission. "Well? What is it?" "I have a conference call in 15 minutes. Maya's fingers tightened on the ultrasound photo. She'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in her mind, tried to find the perfect words that might soften the blow, that might make him understand. But looking at his face now, that mask of irritation and impatience, she knew there were no such words. "I'm pregnant," she said simply. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard's expression didn't change immediately. He simply stared at her as if she'd spoken in a foreign language. Then slowly his face transformed, not into shock or concern, but into something far worse. "Disgust." "You're what?" His voice was dangerously quiet. "I'm 12 weeks pregnant. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I was scared, and I didn't know how." "Who is the father?" Richard interrupted, his words sharp as glass. Maya's throat constricted. This was the part she dreaded most. "His name is David. David Chun. He's Chun." Richard's eyebrows shot up. "Chinese? You're carrying some Chinese boy's bastard." The slur hit Maya like a physical blow. "Father, please don't. Don't tell me how to speak in my own house." Richard exploded, slamming his palm on the desk. The sound cracked through the air like a gunshot. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Any concept of the scandal this will cause? The Hartford name, our reputation." "David isn't just some Chinese boy," Maya said, finding a spark of defiance even as tears began streaming down her face. "He's a graduate student at MIT. He's brilliant and kind, and Is he wealthy?" Richard cut her off again. "Does his family have connections? Can he provide for you in the manner to which you're accustomed?" Maya's silence answered his questions. Richard let out a harsh, bitter laugh. "Of course not. Let me guess, he's on a scholarship? Working some menial job to pay his tuition? And you, my foolish daughter, thought you were in love." He spat the last word like it was poison. "I am in love with him." Maya protested. "We're planning to get married. He wants to be a father to this baby. He's a good man." "A good man?" Richard stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. He was a tall man, and he used his height to intimidate, looming over the desk. A good man would have kept his hands off the daughter of one of Boston's most prominent families. A good man would have understood his place. His place. Maya felt anger beginning to burn through her fear. "What does that mean? What exactly is his place, father?" "Don't play naive with me, Maya. You know exactly what I mean. The Hartfords don't mix with people like that. We have standards. We have a legacy to uphold. Your great-grandfather built this fortune from nothing. Your grandfather doubled it. I've spent my entire life protecting and growing our family's wealth and influence. And you," his voice dripped with contempt, "you throw it all away for some penniless student who probably saw you as a meal ticket." "That's not true. David doesn't care about money. He doesn't even know how wealthy we are. I never told him." "Then you're even more stupid than I thought." Richard walked around the desk, each step measured and deliberate. Let me make something very clear to you, Maya. You have two choices. You can have this pregnancy terminated immediately and quietly. I'll arrange everything. We'll say you were ill, needed treatment, went to a private clinic in Switzerland. No one needs to know. The blood drained from Maya's face. You want me to get rid of my baby? It's not a baby yet. It's a problem. A problem with a very simple solution. Richard's voice was clinical, as if they were discussing a business transaction. After the procedure, you'll complete your degree in art history, a useless subject, but at least it's respectable. Then we'll arrange a suitable marriage. Charles Pemberton's son has expressed interest. Good family, old money, weak chin, but that can't be helped. Maya felt nauseated, and it had nothing to do with morning sickness. And if I refuse? Richard's expression hardened into granite. Then you leave this house with nothing. No trust fund. No inheritance. No Hartford name. You'll be disowned completely and permanently. You can't be serious. Do I look like I'm joking? Richard crossed his arms. You wanted to play house with your poor student boyfriend? Fine. See how you like living in poverty. See how quickly his love lasts when there are bills to pay and diapers to change and no family money to fall back on. Maya's hands instinctively moved to her stomach, protective. The tiny life growing inside her, her child, was worth more than any inheritance. David loves me. He'll stand by me. Richard laughed again, that cruel, bitter sound. They all say that, don't they? Until reality sets in. Mark my words, Maya. Within a year, he'll resent you and that brat. He'll blame you for ruining his life, for trapping him. And you'll have nothing. No money, no family, no prospects. I'll have my child, Maya said quietly. I'll have David. We'll manage somehow. Then you're a fool. Richard walked back to his desk and picked up his phone. You have until tomorrow morning to make your decision. Either you agree to the termination and everything continues as normal, or you pack your things and leave. Tomorrow morning? Maya's voice cracked. Father, please, can't we at least? There's nothing to discuss. I won't have a half-breed bastard carrying the Hartford name. I won't have my daughter associated with some nobody from God knows where. You made your choice when you spread your legs for that boy. Now make your next choice wisely. The cruelty of his words, the casual way he dismissed both her baby and the man she loved, ignited something fierce in Maya's chest. She straightened her spine, wiped her tears, and looked her father directly in the eye. I don't need until tomorrow, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. I choose my baby. I choose David. I choose love over your money and your cold, empty mansion and your heartless legacy. For just a moment, something flickered in Richard's eyes, surprise perhaps, or maybe even a hint of respect. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by his usual mask of indifference. So be it, he said coldly. I'll have the staff pack your essentials. You'll leave tonight. And Maya, he paused, his next words calculated to wound. When you come crawling back, and you will come crawling back, don't expect me to answer the door. You're dead to me. You made your choice. Maya turned and walked toward the door, each step feeling like wading through concrete. Her hand was on the doorknob when her father's voice stopped her one last time. Your mother won't fight for you, you know. She never has. It was true, and they both knew it. Eleanor Hartford had spent 35 years as Richard's wife, and in all that time, she'd never once stood up to him. She was a beautiful ornament, perfectly coiffed and dressed, hosting charity luncheons and society events, but utterly devoid of backbone. I know, Maya said without turning around. Goodbye, father. She closed the door softly behind her, refusing to give him the satisfaction of a slam. The hallway stretched before her, lined with portraits of Hartford ancestors, stern-faced men and women who stared down at her with judgment. She'd grown up in this house, walked these halls 1,000 times, but now it felt alien. Cold. Like a mausoleum for the living. The shocking discovery. Maya climbed the grand staircase to her bedroom, her legs moving mechanically while her mind reeled. In a daze, she pulled out her suitcases and began packing. Clothes, photographs, the few pieces of jewelry her grandmother had left her before she died. Everything else, the designer wardrobes, the expensive art supplies, the life of luxury she'd always known, would stay behind. She was zipping up her second suitcase when her bedroom door opened. Eleanor Hartford stood in the doorway, elegant in a champagne-colored dress, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She looked like she was about to attend a cocktail party, not watch her only daughter get thrown out of the family home. So it's true, Eleanor said softly. You're actually leaving. Did you think I'd get rid of my baby to make father happy? Maya asked, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. Eleanor walked into the room, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She sat delicately on the edge of Maya's bed, careful not to wrinkle her dress. I think you're very young and very foolish.
Love doesn't pay the rent, Maya.
It doesn't put food on the table or clothes on your back. Is that why you married father?
For the money. A flicker of something. Pain?
Regret. Crossed Eleanor's perfectly made-up face. I married your father because it was expected. Because my family needed the connection. And I've lived a comfortable life because of that choice.
Comfortable. Maya let out a hollow laugh. Mother, you're miserable.
You drink wine starting at noon. You spend hours at spas and shopping because you can't stand to be in this house. You take pills to sleep and pills to wake up and pills to get through the day. That's not comfort. That's imprisonment. Eleanor's hand trembled slightly as she smoothed her dress. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic.
I'm being honest.
Maya sat down next to her mother, studying the woman who'd given birth to her but had never really been present. When's the last time father told you he loved you? When's the last time you two had a real conversation that wasn't about appearances or obligations? Marriage isn't about love, Maya. Not in families like ours. It's about partnership, about building something greater than yourself. That's so sad, Maya whispered. That you truly believe that. Eleanor stood abruptly. I came to give you something. She reached into her designer handbag and pulled out an envelope. There's $5,000 in cash here.
Don't tell your father.
It's from my household allowance that I've been saving. Maya stared at the envelope, shocked. It was perhaps the most maternal thing her mother had done in years.
Mother,
Don't thank me, Eleanor cut her off. And don't come back asking for more. This is all I can do for you. She placed the envelope on the bed and walked toward the door, then paused. Your father is wrong about many things, Maya. But he's right about one thing. The world is much harder when you don't have money.
Much crueler.
I'd rather be poor and loved than rich and alone, Maya said. Eleanor's smile was heartbreaking in its sadness. Ask me that again in a year. See if you still feel the same way. She left without another word, the door closing with a soft click behind her. Maya picked up the envelope, feeling the weight of the bills inside. $5,000. To her father, it was pocket change. To her, newly cut off and pregnant, it was a lifeline. She tucked it carefully into her purse, then returned to packing. An hour later, she stood in the circular driveway of the Hartford mansion, her 3 suitcases beside her, waiting for the Uber she'd called. The rain had lightened to a drizzle. Inside, the lights glowed warm and golden, but the house had never felt more distant, more unreachable. The driver helped her load her bags into the trunk. As the car pulled away, Maya looked back one final time. She saw a curtain move in an upstairs window, her mother, watching her leave. Then the curtain fell back into place, and the mansion disappeared behind the trees that lined the long driveway. Maya pulled out her phone with shaking hands and dialed David's number. He answered on the second ring.
Maya?
Hey, I was just thinking about you. How did it go with?
I told him, Maya interrupted, her voice breaking.
I told my father about the baby.
A pause. And he threw me out. I'm disowned, David.
I have no family.
No money. No home.
The tears she'd been holding back finally spilled over.
I'm so sorry.
I should have thought this through better.
I should have. Maya, stop.
David's voice was firm but gentle. Where are you right now?
In an Uber.
I didn't know where else to go, so I told the driver to head toward Cambridge.
Toward your apartment. Good. That's good. Come here. Come home.
The word made her cry harder. We're going to be okay, Maya. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But we have each other, and we have our baby, and we're going to figure this out together. I promise you.
I love you, Maya sobbed.
I love you too.
So much.
Now get here safely, okay? I'll be waiting. Maya hung up and pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching the familiar streets of her childhood give way to unfamiliar neighborhoods. She was crossing an invisible line, leaving behind everything she'd ever known. Her hand moved to her stomach again, to the tiny life growing there.
It's going to be okay, she whispered.
We're going to be okay. But as the lights of the city blurred past her window, Maya couldn't shake her father's final words. When you come crawling back, don't expect me to answer the door.
She wouldn't crawl back. She couldn't.
But deep down, in a place she didn't want to examine too closely, a small voice wondered if her father might be right. If she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. The Uber driver merged onto the highway, and the Hartford mansion became just another memory in a city full of them. Maya Hartford, or whoever she was now without that name, was heading into an unknown future with nothing but 3 suitcases, $5,000, and a love she desperately hoped would be enough. David Chen's apartment was a 4th-floor walk-up in a converted brownstone in Cambridge, and by the time Maya lugged her 3rd suitcase up the narrow stairwell, she was breathless and questioning every life choice that had brought her to this moment. The building smelled of curry from one apartment, cigarette smoke from another, and something vaguely chemical that she didn't want to identify. It was a far cry from the Hartford mansion's marble floors and fresh orchids that were replaced daily. David met her at the landing, his dark eyes filled with concern. At 26, he was lean and perpetually disheveled, his black hair falling across his forehead in a way that usually made Maya smile. Tonight, even his familiar face couldn't completely ease the knot of anxiety in her chest. "Hey," he said softly, pulling her into his arms.
"You made it."
Maya buried her face in his chest, breathing in the scent of his laundry detergent and the coffee he lived on during late-night study sessions. "I can't believe this is real. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and it'll all be a nightmare."
"I know."
David kissed the top of her head, then grabbed 2 of her suitcases.
"Come on.
Let's get you inside." The apartment was exactly 450 square feet. Maya knew because David had proudly told her that detail when she'd first visited 6 months ago, thinking it was charming. One main room served as living area, bedroom, and study, with a kitchenette barely large enough for one person to stand in and a bathroom the size of a closet. David's entire apartment could have fit inside Maya's former bedroom 3 times over. But it was clean, and it was warm, and when David looked at her with those gentle eyes, it felt more like home than the mansion ever had. "I cleared out half the closet for you," David said, setting down the suitcases. "And I made space in the bathroom cabinet. I know it's not much, but..." "It's perfect," Maya lied, forcing a smile.
"Thank you."
David studied her face, reading the truth she was trying to hide. He'd always been good at that. "It's okay to be scared, you know."
"I'm terrified."
"I'm a grad student living on a stipend that barely covers ramen and rent. I'm about to be a father. I have no idea what I'm doing." "At least you're being honest." Maya sank onto the futon that served as David's couch and bed. "I keep trying to be brave, to act like everything's going to be fine, but I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be poor." The word hung in the air between them.
Poor.
It wasn't a word Maya had ever applied to herself before. David sat beside her, taking her hand.
"We're not poor.
"We're just financially challenged." He tried for a smile. "I have my teaching assistant position.
It's not much, but it's steady."
"And you can get a job." "Doing what?"
Maya interrupted.
"I have a degree in art history from Wellesley. I've never had a real job in my life. Every internship I've done was arranged by my father. I don't have any actual skills." "That's not true.
You're brilliant.
You speak 3 languages. You're organized, creative. None of which pays the bills." Maya pulled her hand away, standing up to pace the small space. "Do you know what I realized on the drive here? I don't know how to do laundry. I've never grocery shopped for myself. I don't know how much milk costs or how often you're supposed to change the oil in a car or..." Her voice cracked. "I don't know how to take care of a baby on a budget. I don't know how to take care of myself on a budget." David stood and caught her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "Then we'll learn together." "Maya, look at me." He waited until her eyes met his. "I love you. Not your money, not your family name, not the life you could have given me. I love you." The woman who spent 3 hours explaining the symbolism in a single Caravaggio painting. The woman who cries at animal shelter commercials. The woman who's carrying our child. Fresh tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. "What if my father was right? What if we can't make this work? What if you end up resenting me? Your father is a bitter, cruel man who doesn't understand that some things matter more than money." David's voice was fierce. "We're going to struggle. I won't lie to you, the next few years are going to be hard. But we'll get through it. I'll finish my PhD. I'll get a good job. Things will get better. And in the meantime? In the meantime, we do what millions of other people do.
We work. We save. We make sacrifices.
We love each other and our baby, and we make it work."
He pulled her close again. "I promise you, Maya.
I will never let you down. I will never abandon you. We're in this together. Maya wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. So she nodded against his chest and tried to ignore the small, treacherous voice that sounded suspiciously like her father, whispering that love was never enough.
3 months later.
Maya stared at the pregnancy test sitting on the bathroom counter, her hands shaking so badly she had to grip the edge of the sink for support. But this wasn't a test to see if she was pregnant. She was now 24 weeks along, her belly round and undeniable beneath her baggy shirt. No, this was a different kind of test. She was looking at the bills. Electric, $87. Internet, $60. Cell phone, $45. Groceries for the week, $112. Prenatal vitamins, $23. Doctor's copay from last week, $50. Total, $377. Remaining in their checking account, $89. David's next stipend payment wasn't due for another week. Maya's job at the campus bookstore paid $12 an hour, and she was only getting 20 hours a week. They were $288 short. Think, Maya muttered to herself, pressing her fingers to her temples. She'd already sold most of her designer clothes on consignment, keeping only the basics. Her mother's $5,000 had evaporated within the first month, security deposit, first and last month's rent. David's lease was ending, so they'd moved to a slightly larger one-bedroom that accepted pregnant tenants, basic furniture, maternity clothes from Target instead of the designer boutiques she'd once frequented. The jewelry her grandmother had left her sat in a small box under the bathroom sink. She'd been saving it, hoping she'd never have to sell it. It was the last connection she had to her old life, to the grandmother who'd actually loved her. Maya opened the box with trembling fingers. The diamond earrings sparkled under the bathroom's harsh fluorescent light. Her grandmother had worn them to every important event. They were probably worth several $1,000s, maybe more. I'm so sorry, Grandma, Maya whispered, tears blurring her vision.
I don't have a choice.
She heard the apartment door open. David was home from his afternoon lab session. Maya quickly wiped her eyes and closed the box, shoving it back under the sink.
Maya? You here? David called out. Bathroom. Just a second.
She splashed water on her face, trying to erase the evidence of her tears, and emerged with what she hoped was a normal expression. David was in the kitchenette, pulling groceries out of a bag. Cheap pasta, sauce from a jar, day-old bread from the discount bin. How was work? He asked, not looking up.
Fine. Boring.
My feet are killing me. Maya eased herself onto one of their 2 mismatched dining chairs, one from David's old apartment, one from a curb on trash day. How was the lab?
Frustrating.
The experiment isn't giving us the results we expected, so we have to start over. David finally looked at her, and his expression softened with concern. Have you been crying?
No.
Just pregnancy hormones. The lie came easily now. She'd gotten good at lying over the past 3 months. Lying about how much her back hurt. Lying about not being hungry when there wasn't enough food for both of them. Lying about being happy. David didn't look convinced, but he let it go. He'd gotten good at that too, at not pushing, at accepting her explanations, at pretending everything was fine when they both knew it wasn't. I was thinking, he said, turning back to the groceries, maybe we should look into WIC. The Women, Infants, and Children program. It would help with formula and baby food after the baby's born.
Maya's stomach clenched. WIC. Government assistance.
Another sign of how far she'd fallen. But pride wouldn't feed their baby. Okay, she said quietly. That's probably a good idea. And I talked to Professor Morrison today. He said there might be an opening for an additional TA position next semester. It would mean more hours, but also more money. That's great. Maya tried to inject enthusiasm into her voice. When would you find out? Probably not until after the baby's born. David paused, his back still to her. Maya, I've been thinking about something else too. The tone of his voice made her nervous.
What?
He turned around, and the expression on his face made her heart sink. Maybe you should call your father.
The breaking point.
Absolutely not. Maya stood up so fast the chair scraped loudly against the floor. I am never calling him.
Never.
Just hear me out.
No, David.
You don't know what you're asking. I'm asking you to put your pride aside for our baby. David's voice rose, frustration finally breaking through his usually calm demeanor. We're barely making it, Maya. We're one emergency away from disaster. What if the baby comes early and we have to pay the hospital bill?
What if the car breaks down? What if?
We'll figure it out.
Maya interrupted.
We always do. I'll sell my grandmother's jewelry. I'll get a second job.
You're 6 months pregnant.
You can barely handle the job you have now. David ran his hands through his hair, a gesture Maya had learned meant he was at his breaking point.
I see you, Maya.
I see you crying when you think I'm asleep. I see you skipping meals so there's more for me. I see how exhausted you are, how scared you are. Then why are you doing this? Maya felt her own tears returning. Why are you asking me to crawl back to a man who called my baby, our baby, a bastard? Who called you? Who said such horrible things about you?
David's face softened.
He crossed to her, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. Because I love you. Because I want what's best for you and our child.
And because I'm scared, Maya.
I'm terrified that I can't provide for you the way you deserve. I don't want what I deserve, Maya said fiercely. I want you. I want our family. I don't care if we're poor. But I care.
David's voice broke.
I care that you wince every time you have to buy the generic brand instead of what you're used to. I care that you're wearing shoes with holes in them because we can't afford new ones. I care that our baby is going to be born in a one-bedroom apartment where we can barely afford the rent. Maya pulled away from him, wrapping her arms around her pregnant belly protectively. My father won't help us. You don't understand how he is.
He meant what he said. I'm dead to him.
You don't know that. Maybe he's had time to cool down. Maybe he misses you. Parents say things in anger that they don't mean. Not my father. Maya's voice was flat. Richard Hartford doesn't make empty threats. And he doesn't forgive. Then at least try. David's frustration returned. What's the worst that can happen?
He says no?
We're already in the worst position. We have nothing to lose. We have our dignity. Dignity doesn't pay the electric bill.
David shouted.
Then, immediately, his face crumpled with regret.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell. I don't know what else to do, Maya.
I'm trying so hard, and it's not enough.
I'm not enough.
Maya's anger evaporated, replaced by guilt. She crossed to him, taking his face in her hands.
You are enough.
You're everything.
This isn't your fault, David.
None of this is your fault.
Isn't it?
His eyes were anguished.
I got you pregnant.
I knew you came from money, and I still pursued you. Maybe your father was right. Maybe I did see you as a meal ticket, subconsciously.
Maybe. Stop.
Maya's voice was sharp. Don't you dare let him get into your head. My father is poison, David. Everything he touches turns toxic. We are not going to him. We're going to make it on our own, no matter what. David searched her face, then slowly nodded.
Okay.
Okay, if that's what you want.
It is.
They held each other in the middle of their tiny apartment, the only sound the hum of the ancient refrigerator and the muffled argument of the couple upstairs. Maya felt the baby kick against her belly, strong, insistent movements that reminded her what all of this was for. I should start dinner, David finally said, pulling away.
We have that pasta and…
Actually, Maya interrupted, making a decision, I have a surprise. She went to the bathroom and retrieved her grandmother's jewelry box. When she returned, she placed it on their small dining table and opened it.
Maya, no.
David's face went pale. You can't sell those. They're the only thing you have left.
They're things, David.
Pretty things, but still just things. Our baby is more important than diamonds. Maya picked up the earrings, watching the light dance across their facets. My grandmother would understand. She always said that family came first. Well, you and this baby, you're my family now. David's eyes filled with tears.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry, I can't give you the life you deserve. You're giving me exactly the life I want, Maya lied, and this time, she almost believed it herself. Tomorrow, I'll take these to a jeweler and get them appraised. It should be enough to get us through the next few months, at least until the baby comes. That night, as they lay in their bed, which took up most of the bedroom, leaving barely enough room to walk around it, Maya stared at the ceiling and tried not to think about what her life had been just 6 months ago. Tried not to remember silk sheets and a mattress that didn't have springs poking through. Tried not to imagine what her father was doing right now, probably sitting in his study with an expensive scotch, probably not thinking about her at all. Beside her, David's breathing evened out into sleep. He slept fitfully these days, often waking with nightmares about failing his dissertation or losing his stipend. The stress was taking its toll on both of them. Maya's hand moved to her belly, feeling the baby move beneath her palm.
"I'm sorry," she whispered.
"I'm sorry your grandparents won't know you. I'm sorry we can't give you everything you deserve. But I promise you'll have love.
So much love."
The baby kicked in response, and Maya smiled despite her tears. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know as she lay there in the darkness, was that her father had thought about her. Just once, late at night after too much scotch, Richard Hartford had pulled up old photos on his phone. Maya as a little girl, laughing on the swing set. Maya in her first ballet recital. Maya graduating from Wellesley, her smile bright and hopeful. He'd stared at those photos for a long time. Then he'd deleted them, every single one, and poured himself another drink. Maya Hartford was dead to him.
Or so he thought.
The jewelry appraiser looked at Maya over his half-moon glasses with an expression she'd come to recognize over the past 6 months, pity mixed with suspicion. The small shop in downtown Boston smelled of metal polish and old leather, its display cases filled with estate jewelry that other desperate people had sold before her. "These are fine pieces," Mr. Goldstein said, turning the diamond earrings under his jeweler's loupe.
"Very fine.
Cartier, if I'm not mistaken. Early 1960s. "They were my grandmother's," Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. At 7 months pregnant now, everything made her emotional. Yesterday she'd cried over a commercial for paper towels. "And you're certain you want to sell them?"
"Not pawn."
Mr. Goldstein set down the loupe and looked at her directly. "You seem like a nice girl. These are heirlooms. Once you sell them, they're gone forever."
"I know."
Maya's hand moved unconsciously to her belly, where the baby was doing what felt like somersaults. "But I need the money. How much can you offer?" Mr. Goldstein sighed and picked up a calculator. "I can give you 3,000 for the earrings. The necklace," he examined the delicate pearl strand, "another 1,500.
The brooch, 800.
Total of $5,300.
Maya's heart sank.
She'd been hoping for more. At least 7 or 8,000. That's all. "I have to resell them, Miss Hartford. I can only offer you wholesale prices."
He paused. "Wait. Hartford?"
"As in Richard Hartford? The Richard Hartford." Maya's blood ran cold. She should have used a fake name.
Yes.
"But please, I'd appreciate if you didn't. Richard Hartford's daughter is selling her jewelry in my shop." Mr. Goldstein's eyebrows shot up. "Does your father know about this?" "My father and I are estranged." The word felt too civilized for what had happened. "Please, Mr. Goldstein. I need this money for my baby. I'm asking you, as one human being to another, please just give me a fair price and don't tell anyone." The jeweler studied her for a long moment, taking in her second-hand maternity clothes, her worn shoes, the desperation in her eyes. 6,000, he finally said. "That's the best I can do. And I won't say anything to anyone. You have my word."
It wasn't enough. It would never be enough.
But it was something.
"Deal," Maya whispered.
20 minutes later, she walked out of the shop with a cashier's check for $6,000 and an empty jewelry box. The weight of what she'd done settled over her shoulders like a lead blanket. The last physical connection to her grandmother, to her old life, to the person she used to be, gone. Converted into numbers on a piece of paper. Maya found a bench near Boston Common and sat down heavily, her back aching from the pregnancy weight. The fall afternoon was crisp and beautiful, the trees ablaze with autumn colors. Families strolled past, mothers with expensive strollers, nannies pushing children on swings, an elderly couple holding hands. She pulled out her phone and stared at it for a long time before finally opening her contacts. Her finger hovered over one name, Mother. Maya hadn't spoken to Eleanor Hartford in 7 months. Not since the night she'd left. But sometimes, in her weakest moments, she wondered if her mother ever thought about her. If she ever regretted standing by and watching her only daughter get thrown out. Before she could talk herself out of it, Maya pressed the call button.
The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times.
Maya was about to hang up when a familiar voice answered.
"Hello. Mother."
Maya's voice cracked.
"It's me. It's Maya." A sharp intake of breath. Then silence.
In the background, Maya could hear the classical music her mother always played during afternoon tea. Everything about that sound was achingly familiar. "Maya," Eleanor finally said, her voice barely a whisper. "You shouldn't be calling this number. Your father."
"I know.
I know he doesn't want to hear from me. But I needed to talk to you.
To hear your voice. Maya wiped at